One of the biggest issues with maintaining efficient operations in your business is that reality moves faster than the snapshots you take of it. So what I want to do in this video is show you an automation that's completely solved that for me. And this is called a bulk task creator. So the way that this works is as follows. There is a webhook that comes from somewhere, and what we end up doing is we run some AI systems which will create tasks and break down the details and then add these new tasks and update different tasks inside of our Airtable. So I'm going to quickly go and just run this and show you it working in real time. So this here is picking up the following. This is basically what's happening here. We have a webhook which came from one of two different sources, from either our bulk task creator, which I'll show you in a second, or from Fathom itself, direct from Fathom recordings. From there, what we do is we grab the record and then we grab a bunch of information from our Airtable, and then we grab all of that information and then push it through a few AI nodes. This is going to take a little while for it to complete, but once it completes, it's going to create a breakdown of the details from what we presented it, and then we're going to create a ton of tasks, turn those tasks into snippets that can then be added over to Airtable. So I'm going to pause this and then we're going to wait for it to finish. And here we can see it starting to complete. And the thing that it's done is it's created 14 new tasks. What that has done is it's triggered an automation inside of my Slack channels, which has presented this information down here. So these are how things appear. And this is one part of a larger system. And this system is what I'm going to describe today. And I'll probably describe the rest of the system in different parts. So the way that this works is as follows. I'm going to take this direction first instead of this, because it's the exact same thing, but from different sources. And the way that this information is processed comes from another automation, which I'll dive into at a later time. So the way that this starts is the following. We get a record ID, and this record ID comes from this table here, or this form here, sorry. So we have a form here, which is called the new bulk task creator. So the way that generally things work when it comes to creating notes that come from meetings, and this is the whole purpose of this, and the reason why, or where a lot of things happen that you cannot keep track of inside of your systems unless you're inside of your systems multiple hours per day, is that different tasks will happen and different things will be done on calls, especially with just the nature of my business as well, where sometimes I'll have a team meeting and the team meeting is mostly troubleshooting, which means that instead of new tasks being created, we're actually updating things as things occur. One of the things that will always happen on a client call is, yes, I have a transcript because I have my Fathom inside of the actual room with me, but I'll also be taking my own notes, and I'll usually be taking my own notes in my notepad, my text edit, whatever it is that I would be using inside of my computer. Once I have that information, I then go in and I paste it in here. So my notes go in here, and then I go straight into Fathom, and then I drop the call transcript right in here, and then I ask what the final due date is for all of the tasks. I tend to default to 7 days, but if it's more urgent, I place a closer date. Sometimes, again, this can be larger or smaller depending on the amount of information that was spoken about and what else needs to be managed and planned out as well. This information is what goes into here. So we grab the record ID, and where this is spinning off into two different directions is that the filter is record ID does not exist for straight from Fathom, and the record ID does exist if it comes straight from the form. So this is the reason why we're able to divvy these things out. Then all we do is we get the record that came from the webhook, and that gives us the notes, and the notes gives us all of the stuff for the specific clients. This here was a list of support tickets that I ended up turning into a bunch of tasks. And then there's a final due date, and there's a date created, and a bunch of other small things as well. Then we do something which is, I would say, quite messy, and something that a lot of AI people would say is a dumb idea, but there is a difference between I need something that works and the thing works, therefore we are good, versus what is 100% pure, to the letter, best practices. You don't always need it, especially when you're moving fast. This was made in probably about 2 hours. Like, this really didn't take a long time whatsoever. So what I ended up doing was I ran a search on the team. I returned the name, the job descriptions, and the job titles. And then I did the same thing for all of the active tasks that are inside of my system. And the way that my tasks go is that there are specific statuses that I don't want to capture. So I just grab everything that isn't rejected in live monitoring or done. And then I grab all of the clients. And these are all of, I believe, the active clients. So these are all of my clients who are on full service and all the clients who are on maintenance. So from there, I take this information, I aggregate all of the text into this function here. So it's just name, team member record ID, job title, roles and responsibilities, job description. This will make more sense as I describe it later on. Then we have this. Now, this is a brief understanding of and really and truly the main thing here is getting a very, very clear understanding of exactly how you do task management inside of your system, because this is only as good as the prompts that go into it. The inputs are quite well defined if you are keeping a well-defined Airtable or system or otherwise. If you don't have the latter, it doesn't matter what you put in there because it's just going to take things and send them to the wrong places. If you have the latter, but you don't have the former, i.e. you don't have a really clean and easy way to describe exactly how you like tasks to be created, you're going to put a lot of slop inside of your project management system. So what I do is I arrange it in this manner. So I have the name of the build out. I have the status of a specific build out, and then I have a due date. And then from there, I have the assignee, I have the other assignee, which is the account manager. I have the scope, I have the definition for done. If it's blocked, here's the current reason. If it's in review, here's the notes from the team. If it's broken, here's the current reason why. I structure this so that it comes out in a massive, massive text block, which looks something like this. And you can see here that there's, this item here with this definition. And it's just putting all of it into a nice and easy utilizable text string that can be read by the AI in the future steps. And then the same thing goes for all the clients. I grab the client name and I grab their record IDs. Then we click set variable. Set variable is just taking the output from here and giving it a name and storing it because this is the end of the row or the end of the line. Now, again, you would use something like edit set fields inside of NaN instead of make.com. Oh no, you're using make.com. You're super, super late. You're super, super behind. I'm making things that are better than you could ever dream of. So be quiet. There's all of this information gets set. So there's active tasks, there's all teams, and there's all clients. These all get set. And then we grab all the variables again. That gives us all of this stuff. And then we grab the details. Now I'm going to go in and talk about all of this because this is really the most important thing. In fact, really, this is the most important thing. This is just getting the information that I know I'm going to need here without having to use too many credits. Now, technically, this could all be done in one. The problem that I had when I did this all in one is that the JSON would always break. The instructions were so big that I often found that I wasn't able to generate all of the things that I knew that I could generate or get the same level of detail that I know I need in order to get what I need. And this is how the prompt is looking. And the way that I prompt is I will always start off with the context in XML. So this is called XML. This is like HTML, but a little bit clearer. And you can see that it's got this like arrow bracket with the name and then arrow bracket / the name to identify that this is this chunk of information. And when it gets referenced inside of the prompt actually makes sense. So this is the way that it works. I have the role. The role here is you're a task and project management and assistant working for a insert company name here, helping businesses save time by building operating systems for marketing, sales, onboarding, HR, and finance. You've received an objective. You've received an uncategorized list of notes and or call transcripts, create a detailed outline, blah, 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 blah. Output requirements. Highlight the exact times of things that are being spoken about. This is the date. Leave no stone unturned. All detail must be captured and organized effectively. Maximize your output tokens. Format requirements. The outline must be a list of bullet points. Each bullet must start with a bold and title, and then a colon and a short paragraph detailing the information provided. Blah, 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 blah. We're not done yet. There's some stuff inside of the actual content, which is the user prompt. So what I showed you there is the system prompt. This is everything that goes in to the main instructions, and this is all of the information that comes afterwards. So these are all of the notes that came from the form. This is the shared due date that came from the form, and this is the call transcript that came from the form. I always use Gemini 2.5 Pro. Now that might change because Gemini 2.5 Pro, I believe, has a context window of, it's either 1 million or 2 million tokens. Opus 4.6 just came out and that has 1 million tokens. So I might use that from now on. But this was made months ago, and Gemini 2.5 Pro had the biggest context window for the amount that I needed it to have, or the amount that I needed it to create. And because I knew I had so much content going in there, I wanted the biggest context window so that there wasn't any lost information. And what it spit out was this. So we have these choices and this message. So if I go here for the content, here's the detailed outline of the support tickets for the McKinsey company. This is the client record ID, blah, 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 blah. Information here, information here, information here, all structured and organized really effectively. And this gets fed into this. Now, it took me ages to really nail down task structure based on what I was looking for. But what's best for you to look at insofar as understanding how this all works, it's just how I've structured everything. Again, it's the same formula as everything, where I have XML at the top, and then I have in Markdown, or in, should I say, as far as like denoting what a heading's concerned, denoting the headings and everything, I have a hash, and then I have the title for that heading with all the information, and the hash will either be 1 or it will be 2 hashes. So this is heading 1, this is heading 2. So this is like a big heading, this is a subheading, if you want to take it as that as an example. So I have all the team, all the tasks, and all the clients, and then I say basically the same role, and then the objective is different. You've received the number of action items in the form of rough notes and or call transcripts. You also have information on our current tasks, current active clients, and the current state of the team. Turn this information into 1, new tasks for our task board, or 2, updates to tasks that currently exist in our task board. And then the output requirements are as such. If the task is new, create standalone tasks. There should be minimal overlap between one task and another. Reason being, if I have 5 or 6 things being spoken about on the call, and when I receive the tasks on the back end, 2 of them sound the same, the team get confused. It also means that people end up getting assigned to things that they don't need. One person gets assigned to something that bleeds into something that somebody else is doing. It doesn't make any sense. So that's the reason why I needed there to be minimal overlap. I needed there to be atomized tasks. These must be new. You have received the list of all current tasks above. If a task was mentioned, which is already in the list of current tasks, do not create it. Follow the instructions on it if the task is not a new task, which is this heading. Confirm the new status of the task by the information provided. Update the information based on the task status using the below information. Put the record ID of the task. Copy the existing task name and record ID of the existing task. You can see that I'm mentioning the record ID quite a lot because this does not go into Airtable without a record ID. So if there is an existing record ID, I need to have it in there, or else that item just literally just fails. Then each task you return must have the following. Client, provide the record ID of the client. Every task must have one. Assign developer. Each task must be assigned to one developer whose roles and responsibilities coincide with what he's doing. Task name, make the task name proper case following a naming convention. And then this is just our naming convention. It's usually just the initials of the client plus what the thing is. The scope, make the scope of each task clear and detailed as humanly possible. Introduce context from other related tasks, blah, 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 blah. Definition of done, examples, due dates, format requirements, JSON output structure, and then some critical rules as well about the JSON. So that's what that is. And then the user prompt is just using the due date from the form and then the details from the previous step. This here is the juice. This here is the sauce. It's an assistant prompt. What an assistant prompt is, for recollection or just as a reminder, is it's a way to remind the AI how, it's basically a way to get the structure down the way that you need it. And it also helps the AI to fill in the gaps where you have denoted that there are gaps. This is best used whenever you have, in this case, structured outputs, which means I'm generating code with AI. And if I'm generating code with AI, then the first thing that I know I'm going to need to do is have a good understanding of what my fields are. And the fields are the end point of this automation, which is every single merge field or every single variable that I'm going to add to my Airtable. So if you have a look now, if we come out of this and we skip to the end, you'll see that when I want to add a new task, I need a project name, an associated a status, a project size, a due date. I actually need an associated client, but it was bugging out on this route anyways. I need a scope, I need a definition of done, I need an assigned developer, I need a type. I'm just taking all the things that I know I'm going to need based on what's inside of my Airtable already. So that's for new records, and this is for updated records. Same thing for new records, updated records. That's everything that I need there. The way this actually looks when it comes out is very, very jumbled. Now, I believe this is an open router issue as opposed to, and I say jumbled, it just means that it doesn't pass out the information for me. So it doesn't give me the fields that I can just drag. It gives me this. Now, granted, it still works. It still does everything that it needs to do. And it's still, you can see here, this is the task name, this is the status, this is the project size, this is the due date, this is the scope. This is the definition of done. The assigned developer is a record ID. This is the type. This is top priority, task action. This is the associated client as well. Everything's all good there. And you can see that it's just generated a ton of stuff for me. And then you'll see here that the usage is around 30 to 40,000 tokens for the prompt, and is 14,000 for the completion. So we're actually way under the limit for one call. However, context window is everything, and the more context window you have, the exponentially worse the outcome and the outputs actually get. So where we had a ton of information, even here we had 4,000 prompt tokens and 9,000 completion tokens. So this is actually way less. It was where we used everything in this create tasks route that things started to bulk up a little bit, but we're still way under, which is exactly what we were looking for. So from here, this gigantic chain of content, which comes out of the back end of this, is all going through this step here. Before I actually talk about this step, what I wanted to actually discuss or show you is how I actually make that little assistant prompt that I made, because that's going to show you exactly how you would do this for yourself. And again, I can't code. I don't know how to code. I don't know how to write any of the stuff that came through there, but I do have Claude projects. So I'm going to show you one right now. This here is my Claude project for creating structured outputs for AI. And all this does is it creates JSON objects that spit out structured outputs. So the instructions are as follows. Capture all of the context within the message and provide JSON following the specified structure. Subsequent messages after the first message will always be some form of iteration or change that needs to be made to the JSON. So after providing the JSON, always end your message with send over any extra detail that we can add to the descriptions, or if you want to iterate based on the outputs you're getting. Output requirements are these. So where did I get this information from? So initially, when I was inside of NAN, making automations, when you want to add what's called a structured output parser to any AI agent, which basically means I'm creating code with this AI agent node and I want to make sure that the code reads a specific way. When you click define using the JSON schema, this is a naturally recommended or naturally recognized format for code that comes out very, very cleanly in a way that AI can speak to. So if you click on this JSON schema thing here, it just breaks down. So this is jasonschema.org. It used to send you straight to like something else. Yeah, here it is. So here are a few examples. This is kind of what you're trying to create. Again, you don't even need to read this, but just know that this is an input and this is the output. So some information goes in, and you can see here that we have properties, first name, this is the type, this is the description of it, last name, and then you have age. This is the data. So all you're doing is you're describing what this is going to look like using code. So what I ended up doing was copying and pasting it and putting it inside of my system prompt so that it was always there. And then I gave it an example based on one that I had done inside of I basically ran it once and then gave it an example, and now it knows exactly how it's meant to work. Because sometimes it would just give me state and cities, and I'm like, wait, no, stop doing that. Like you don't need to be doing this right now. So I gave it an example to understand exactly how it's meant to look. And the output of that is exactly what I would copy and paste whenever I am using some sort of output that looks just like that. So you can see here, we have the type, properties, we have a cool synopsis, a cool sentiment, student action items, and coaching action items. This is for a client of mine who is a coaching program, and they wanted a way to analyze, just like what we're doing, transcripts and format them in a way that can be added to Airtable. So all of this information goes into our assistant prompt. And this here is where you can see the information that was provided, including what the types are. And I had to specify that I wanted an array of objects. An array basically just means a list, and an object is just like one item that you would then split out essentially. So this here gave us a bunch of bundles, which means we now have 14 things that are going to fly through the rest of this automation, which is exactly what you can see here. And all we're doing is we're adding new tasks. And that's it. That is the entire bulk task creator. This is how it gets made. The biggest thing is making sure that you have a really good prompt here, which is specifically designed to meet the criteria you have internally that describe how tasks are meant to look inside of your project management system. Now, the way that I have generated this is I've generated this through Airtable, which is my own project management system. This can be done in ClickUp, this can be done in Notion, this can be done in a number of other places. I highly recommend database-based structures for this. So Notion's a good example for this, and Airtable's a good example for this. If you're looking for something like this, have a look at the link in the description, have a look at some of my other videos. You'll see some other examples of how this connects, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon.